Welcome to the More Demand podcast, where we help you generate more demand for your products and services. Every episode we give you tips, tricks and tutorials on how to get the best out of your digital marketing. Less frustration, more demand. Here's your host Lawrence Howlett with this week's freshest tips.
Hello and welcome to the More Demand podcast, episode number 37. This week I'm going to do something a little bit different and actually do a book review of one that I've recently been reading called Essentialism, the Disciplined Pursuit of Less by Greg McKeown. Now, this book is seriously good. It's really worth a read. And on the back of the book, I'm sure this is going to resonate instantly with you. So have a listen to these questions and see if it just perks your ears up. Have you ever found yourself stretched too thin at home or work? Have you ever felt both overworked and underutilized? Do you ever feel busy but not productive? Do you ever feel like you're constantly in motion but never getting anywhere? Greg goes on to say, if you answered yes to any of these, then the way out is becoming an essentialist. This is not a time management strategy, but a systematic discipline you apply every time you are faced with a decision by forcing us to be more selective about what is essential. The pursuit of less allows us to regain control of our choices so we can make the highest possible contribution to the things that really matter. Now, I've only recently finished reading Essentialism, and actually it is really life-changing. It really makes you think and gives you a sense of clarity about what is essential to achieving your goals. And it is, in fact, about that clarity, about having a clear vision of what everyone is working towards that is essential to making that vision a reality. So I wanted to take you through the model of the essentialism. So it sort of plays off non-essentialists versus essentialists. So if I just go through the model and what a non-essentialist is, which definitely is myself. I know I'm a non-essentialist right now, and I know I need to work towards becoming an essentialist, as much as you can. So let's have a look at a non-essentialist. So a non-essentialist thinks like this: is he or she is all things to all people. I have to do this. It's all important. How can I fit all of this in? This big to-do list that I've got, how am I going to fit all of that in? That's how the non-essentialist thinks. Compare that to the essentialist that thinks less but better and will think, I choose to do X, Y, or Z. Only a few things really matter. And what are the trade-offs? So we'll go into the trade-offs a little bit later on under the power of choice. But you can instantly see there that the non-essentialist is thinking, I've got all this stuff to do, and his mind is going round and spinning, and I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Whereas the essentialist will go, okay, this is the big list of things that other people might want me to do, that I might want to do, but how do I choose the things? What are the trade-offs? What am I going to choose? What is essential to achieving that clear vision? So the next part is the non-essentialist. What do they do? So a non-essentialist has an undisciplined pursuit of more. So reacts to everything and reacts to what is most pressing. So i.e. who shouts the loudest wins. So you've got that customer on the phone, they're shouting down the phone, and you instantly react to that problem and try and solve it. That's not always the best way to do it, because then you're saying no to lots of other people and lots of other customers because you're focusing on the one that is, thinking that they're the most urgent. So the non-essentialist also says yes to people without really thinking and tries to force execution at the last moment. So he hasn't got a plan, is just, going through minute by minute and just solving firefighting problems as they come along. Compare that to the essentialist, where they have the disciplined pursuit of less. The essentialist will pause to discern what really matters. They'll say no to everything except what is essential and removes obstacles to make execution easy. So what does that mean? Well, have a think about pauses to discern what really matters. How many times have you instantly said yes to someone without even thinking. You've just gone, yes, I'll do that. A client phones you up and goes, will you do X, Y, and Z? You go, yep, no problem. Without even thinking, can I fit that into my schedule? Have I got the resources to do that? Does it fit and align with our vision? Those are the questions of the essentialist that then gives you the ability to say no, which opens up then a realm of other opportunities. When you say no to something, you're actually freeing up your time to say yes to other things that do align with your vision. So then we've finally got a section within the essentialist model that is called gets. So the non-essentialist gets or lives a life that does not satisfy, takes on too much and the work suffers, feels out of control, is unsure on whether the right things get done, and feels overwhelmed and exhausted. So how many of you can resonate with that we all feel overwhelmed and exhausted from time to time? We're unsure whether we're getting the right thing done. How many times have you questioned yourself, is this right? That's because you haven't got an absolutely clear vision and you've got too much going on, and you need to take out clothes from the wardrobe that are non-essential. That's the analogy that they give. So then versus that, essentialist lives a life that really matters, chooses carefully in order to do great work, feels fully in control, gets the right things done, and experiences the joy in the journey. So experiences the joy in the journey. Too many of us want that end goal. We want that shiny object, and we forget about enjoying the journey on the way to doing that, the things that we're going to possibly fail at, the things that we're going to enjoy, the mini successes along the way. Failure is just a prerequisite of success. So we need to enjoy that journey and learn from it to make sure that we can do it better next time. So that's the model. So essentially, essentialism, and essentially, the non-essentialist is all things to all people, has an undisciplined pursuit of more, and lives a life that does not satisfy, versus an essentialist that is less but better, has the disciplined pursuit of less, and lives a life that really matters. So I can relate this to myself. I've definitely been a non-essentialist where I've had the absolute stresses of clients phoning me up on a Sunday with problems that they want me to solve instantly, and I've picked up the phone because I think I have to do that. I think, I'm obliged to do that, whereas actually no, you need to set your boundaries, you need to set the parameters and get that respect from your clients about what you will work to and what are the parameters that you will be involved in helping them out. So you can think about that in your own business, and how being a yes man, saying yes to everything, really actually means that you're closing down the opportunities that you might want to work on yourself. And I think that's all because we as entrepreneurs are very, very busy. We're very overloaded with instant technology that makes things very quick and simple. There's lots of people telling us we should be doing this, we should be doing that, and we end up launching or starting too many things, and we lose the focus. We lose what is at the heart of what we really want to do, our clear vision that not only are we working towards, but our entire team is working towards. And that then leads us to feel overwhelmed, which then incites stress. And that's where things start to fall apart. And that's where you then become not fully present in, for example, if you've got a family, you're still at home, you've got your phone out in front of the TV. So not only are you watching TV, you're also on your phone checking your work emails. You're not fully present in that family time. You're not really enjoying your time with your children, with your wife. And that really impacts not only on your ability to think within the business, but also on your family, that then has a vicious circle of more and more stress being brought onto you. So actually, by stripping away lots of things that are completely irrelevant, you can then start to have this clarity and have this vision of what you're working towards, and lead, a lot more satisfying life. And to do that, we need, as Greg says in the book, the power to choose. So being a yes person versus being a no person. So as I said, I've definitely been a yes person for a lot of years, saying yes to everything and then trying to figure out how I can fit that in. Whereas actually what we should be doing is saying, no to a lot of opportunities that present to us so that we can focus on what we want to. The problem is how to say no. We've got a culture of wanting to please people, that we want to be seen as popular, and we do that by saying yes to lots of opportunities. But actually saying no to things can earn you a lot of respect. So how do you say no? Well, it's a difficult thing, that you have to just get over. And to do that, you're going to have to practice and put into place a few of these little tactics that you can use to say no. So, for example, you can use an awkward pause to contemplate your answer. So before you instantly say yes to someone, so someone walks over to your desk and goes, "Oh, Lawrence, could you just do this report for me?" "Yeah, sure, no worries, Steve, I'll sort that out for you." Use an awkward pause and look at that person and contemplate your answer, and then go, "No, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. I've got X, Y, and Z to do." So that's tactic 1. You could also say yes, but in that instance, I could say, "Yes, sure, Steve, what would you like me to deprioritize by doing this?" So this is especially if you're an employee, or, for example, even if one of your employees is coming, up to you as a boss and asking you to do something, you can say, "Yes, but what would you like me to deprioritize by doing this, because this is my schedule at the moment and it's currently full." You can also say that you can answer back by email. So, for example, you say, "Let me check my calendar and I'll get back to you." So you've deferred saying no, but then you answer it by email, because saying no over email is a lot easier. And you could also say, "Yes, I would love to, but I'm already flat out." So you haven't actually used the word no, but you have, deferred or deflected that request, and it doesn't land on your desk and frees you up to other opportunities that fit within that vision. So it's about having trade-offs. The way of the essentialist allows you to think about what are you trading off. By saying yes to one thing, you're actually saying no to thousands of other things. So the takeaway here is, trying to say no to non-essential requests and just see what happens. When someone comes over and asks you, or when an opportunity arises, have a real think, a considered think about what you want to do. And by saying no to that opportunity, or by saying yes, you've actually answered already thousands of other questions. So, for example, if someone came up to you and said, "Right, we want to launch this new product in Q1 of next year." And you think, "Great, this sounds brilliant. We're going to launch this product. We're going to do this, that, and the other." And then you actually start to sit back and think about that product launch, and does it fit within your clear vision for where you're going currently? So, for example, if you said no to that launching that new product, you've already decided thousands of other decisions. So you've decided not to do market research, you've decided not to do market analysis, product development, marketing, sales, production, all of these things that go into launching a product, you've already said no to, and cleared your desk and your calendar of all those decisions that you would have had to make if you'd have said one tiny yes at the start. So you can see how one tiny little yes will make a huge amount of decisions happen later on. So you need to have that clear vision about exactly what you want to achieve before you even contemplate saying yes. And you can always use those saying no tactics to defer or deflect that decision until a point in time where you've had considered, you've considered that within your own mind, and see if that is a good fit for you. But once you do have a vision, that is about knowing when you're done with that vision as well. So you have to know when you're done, and how will you get there. So think of this as if you're at a gym and you're on a treadmill and you just keep on running forever. There's no time limit on it, and you were just running and running and running and running and running. The problem here is at some point you are going to get very, very tired. You're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to fall off the treadmill and go flying backwards like all of those fail videos that we see on YouTube. That is a non-clear vision. You don't understand, or you don't know when you're going to finish. Versus that, compare that with knowing exactly when you'll finish. You've got a 10-minute timer on there at 10 kilometers an hour or whatever the speed is. You're then motivated. You know you've only got 10 minutes on the treadmill at X% climb. You can work out exactly your pace. You know all of the decisions that you've got to make to get to that 10 minutes. You know if you've got to have some water, or you want your favorite songs on. Instantly then you can plan for that vision and to achieve that vision. So the essentialist will look at that and say, right, I'm going on the treadmill for 10 minutes. What is essential to me achieving that 10 minutes? Well, number one, I've got to have some trainers on. That is essential. I've got to be clothed. I've got to have some fluids. And also I need my motivational music, because that's going to get me through. They're the only things that I need to be able to get on that treadmill and achieve that goal. So you can see that you know exactly when you're going to be done. You've got a clear vision. You know what is essential to achieving that vision, versus the non-essentialist that doesn't have a plan, hasn't got any idea of when they're going to finish, is just on there running, hasn't got the water that they need to finish the journey on the treadmill, and everything just breaks apart, falls apart, and they will end up failing. So I hope that you can relate to that, and how you could create a clear vision in your business to give you a way to create an essentialist route to realizing that vision. So some of the things that might be stopping you, and how do you figure out what is stopping you achieving that vision? So for example, if you think of a scout pack, where a teacher's taken a scout pack out for a march, and they're all spread out, and you've got lots of different abilities within there. You've got lots of people that are very quick. You've got lots of people that are just in the middle, and then you've got one person, and Greg calls him Herbie, who is the slowest. And the teacher says, well, I'm going to put Herbie at the back because he's the slowest. And then off they go, they march into the woods. And what happens is that the teacher ends up running up to the front and saying, well, you need to slow down, you need to stop. Actually, you need to stop while Herbie catches up. And then she runs all the way back to Herbie, and then waits for Herbie and tries and ushers him along. And then once the pack all concertinas up again, the front runners go off, and they again go further into the distance, and the teacher has to do this process over and over again. And you can see how they're concertinaing out, and then the whole team is split out. There's no team communication because they can't hear each other, and the whole thing just breaks down and is a nightmare for the teacher to manage, because she's running from the front to the back all the time, trying to keep everyone together and managing all their different needs, and it's just a completely stressful situation. So what the essentialist would do is actually put Herbie at the front. Now think of this as a play when you're figuring out what's causing you to fail, or not even to fail, or to slow down on reaching your goal. So with Herbie at the front of the pack, what happens is the whole pack stays in line. They can all communicate with each other. The teacher can march alongside Herbie, and the whole pack goes together as one into the woods. Now, yes, they might be slower, but instantly we've identified that Herbie is the person that is slowing us down, because we know if we could increase Herbie's walking speed by 10%, the entire production increases by 10%, and we're still getting there all together as a unit. So instantly we can find out what is the bottleneck and what is slowing you down. So let's take a practical example of this. I've run a digital agency for over 12 years, and one of the problems with developing websites is that content is essential to the web design process. Now, if you think of designing a website, the designer sits down on day one and goes, okay, what do we want on the homepage? If we can't tell the designer what we want on the homepage in terms of content, that will slow down the whole process, because we haven't got that essential piece before the designer starts. So the whole pack then slows down. They're dispersed because communication is broken down. We haven't got the content in place, so the graphic designer is now sat idle doing nothing. So by putting our Herbie, our content, in front and doing that first, we can then hand over to the next person in the process, in the communication line, to say, here is exactly what we want on the homepage. This is all the information that we want to display, and now you can go and design that. So the Essentialist really understands the complete business process and can identify clearly who is slowing them down or what is slowing them down, put them at the front of the process, or change the process around to think what is essential to getting the entire process done that little bit quicker. So I hope that's helped you try and figure out some things that might be stopping you, and has got your brain firing off on questions that you could ask your own team and your own process about how you could improve that. One of the things that I've definitely noticed is about when you're in the flow. Greg describes this in the chapter called Flow. And being in the flow, I definitely know at 7:30 in the morning until about 9:30, that is my 2 hours of flow time, where I can be in the zone, if you want, or in the flow, whatever you want to call it. And that's my most efficient time of output. That's when I can write the best, design the best. That's when I can podcast the best, when I know what I'm talking about and not babbling on about a load of irrelevant stuff. But you've got to identify when that flow time is for you and make sure that you are not disrupted during that flow time. That should be, you're locked away in the flow, not to be disturbed, and that's when you can really get your most productive and essential work done. So for example, if you're a writer, you want to have that particular amount of flow time. It might be 2, 3, 4 hours, then you need a break, but you need to section off that part of your day where you're not disturbed. And that is essential to you achieving that clear goal of finishing your book. And you don't want people to be able to distract you in that time. So make sure that you've got a clear space where you can, again, clearly think. In fact, there was a example of a university that Greg uses within the book that has a flow space. Now, what they do in the flow space is only allow 2 or 3 people in there. It's a darkened room with no windows or anything like that. There's no phone signal, there's no internet, there's just a few seats and some stationery in there, and that is the thinking and the flow time that you can go in there and book that particular room just to take yourself away from all distractions and get on with being in that moment. You think of it like a Formula 1 driver or a footballer. They are right in the moment. They are living that moment, and they are in the flow of being that particular skill set right there and then. That's what being in the flow is all about, and that's what the Essentialist can do and identify when their flow time is and ensure that there are no other distractions. That's what an Essentialist is really good at. Another thing that Greg talks about is multitasking versus multi-focus. And with this, everyone can multitask. So, for example, I'm talking now through this microphone, but I've also got Greg's book in my hand. I'm reading bits on that. I'm also reading bits on the screen, checking the volume and things like that. So I'm multitasking, but my single focus is on giving you this book review, and that is my focus. If I was trying to focus on lots of other things in terms of, I was also trying to plan for my business, or I was trying to think what we were having for tea tonight, my focus would go and I would end up not being able to deliver quality content. So you should never multi-focus. In fact, you can't really truly multi-focus. You can only have a single focus. So for all the time that you've got within your day, we've all got 24 hours. Have a think about what is your focus for that particular, maybe it's even an hour. Use the Podot method that gives you 56 or 57 minutes, I think, of work and then 3 minutes of rest, and you can go and do something else. What is your focus for that 57 minutes within the hour? Or what is your focus for that day? What is the one thing that you want to get done today that is essential to moving you to the next stage? What is that essential element? What is that focus that you want to achieve to take you to your next phase or your next achievement, your next goal? Have a think about that and remove all the non-essential items. What could you strip out? Do you need to answer those emails? Do you need to check your Facebook account? Do you need to check your AdWords? Do you need to check all this stuff? All these metrics and things that are vying for our attention, and notifications on your WhatsApp. And is that essential? No, it's not. You can strip out all of that essential, non-essential stuff and replace it with a single flow essentialism that allows you to achieve great things. So what are some of the major themes of essentialism? Well, an essentialist thinks less but better. So think of this as the sports car that's had all its luxury taken out, and it's now a pedigree race car to go fast around that track because it's lighter, it's got better tyres, it's got all of this heavy luxury taken out, and it's a stripped down race version that is prepared to reach the goal of getting the best lap time. Or think of it as the restaurant that only has 4 dishes on the menu, but they are excellently cooked. I always like to go to local pubs here in the UK that only have a few dishes on the menu. You go to some of these big chains and they'll have literally hundreds of things, but it's all reheated food. It's not real well cooked food by chefs. It's just putting it in a commercial microwave and then it's served to you. Whereas actually I would much rather dine at somewhere that only has a few dishes on, but they are very, very well cooked. And the main thing about essentialism is simply to ask yourself, what is essential? What is essential right now, today? What is essential to you feeling happy with your day's work? What is essential to you being fully present with your family instead of checking your phone, instead of checking emails? What is fully present? What is stopping you being fully present with your family and friends? There's nothing worse than having people over for dinner and they're sat there on their phone checking their Facebook. So we have a policy of, no phones at the dinner table. Absolutely not. No way. They are left well away from there. So you can be fully present with those people there and then. And if you've got particular worries and stresses, so for example, what is essential to paying the bills this month, or what is essential to landing that big deal? Just try and think about what is essential to achieving that one goal that you want to achieve within the next few days. You don't have to look miles into the future for this. You just have to think about what is essential to achieving that next milestone or that next goal that you want to achieve. So I really enjoyed reading Greg McKeown's Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. It's definitely something that I'm going to try and achieve in my own life and in more demand. In fact, I was just thinking with guests on the show, we try and make the show half an hour every time, but actually, do we really need to make it half an hour? If we've gone through everything that we want to and we've covered the subject, then let's close at 22 minutes. It doesn't matter how long the show is, as long as you've got the essential elements of what you need to do to take action from the podcast. So I'm going to start applying this in baby steps, small steps, so that I can slowly make it into a proper habit, rather than just going with a massive sea change that I probably won't last for. So little baby steps to becoming an essentialist. I'm not saying that I'm going to turn into Gandhi or anyone like that, but I'm going to try and definitely strip out the non-essentials in my life. And I hope you have sort of resonated somewhat with this and think back to those initial questions that I asked at the start of the show. Have you ever found yourself stretched too thin at home or work? Have you ever felt both overworked and underutilized? Do you ever feel busy but not productive? And do you feel like you're constantly in motion but never getting anywhere? And if you answered yes to any of these, then I definitely recommend a read of Essentialism by Greg McKeown. So I hope you've enjoyed this first book review of More Demand. I know it's been a little bit different this week. We haven't just talked about lead generation or anything like that, but I think it's so important to center yourself and understand exactly what you're actually trying to achieve and what is essential to you achieving that. So I hope you've enjoyed the show, and of course I will see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for listening to the More Demand podcast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes and get the latest episode direct to your device every Wednesday.